Hi, it's skycat.live. It's 12:15. Hello, number two. It's 12:15. That'll be December 15th, which is a Friday, December 15th, 2023. It's a 7:45 in the evening. Kind of a slow start here. My family immediately dominated 2 hours of my time this evening without even asking. And so there we go. And I do see that there's some people here. Hello, I love you. Today we'll be playing some Rust Hardcore Zombies, some Final Fantasy XI, and some World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft. It is a beautiful sunny day in Rust, and it is midway through the day. We're going to go out, we're going to farm. But first, we're going to switch over. Thank you guys for paying attention to me throughout all of these days and everything. I do see some viewership on my YouTube, and I hope to one day make $1 doing this. And I mean that by a single dollar. And I really I want to thank you for being there so loyally and all that. And there we go. Okay, we will switch over from you to display. Okay, there we go. Hello, people. I love you. How you guys doing? I hope you enjoy. Today I will be playing some Rust Hardcore Zombies, and some WoW and some EvE. So let's fire up these other videos here. Our video games here. Going to fire up some WoW. Season of Discovery. No. No, wrong one. Why would you ever start that one? You know I don't want that. That's why you fall. That's why you forced me to do it. Come on now. No. I want that to stop. That to stop. I don't want that to go forward. Yeah. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Alright. I'm gonna go check the bank. We'll kill these zombies. Zombies! Time to die, zombie! You have hung around my front door for too long. Camera's up, by the way. Oh, thank you. Yes, I was just checking that. Wow, I really need you to not do that. Thank you. I didn't ask you to do that. There we go. And, scene, video capture scene. Activate, show. Really? Okay, there we go. You didn't fight me? Yeah, you didn't fight me on it. Hi, sorry guys. There we go. So now, how are we looking? No new bases or anything like that. That is good. And I don't want these fishing poles, so let's put them away. That's World of Warcraft, yes. And nope. Okay, we'll go to the Battens. The Battens. And I will put on a video. There we go. This video is called Analyzing Evil. Lou Bloom from Nightcrawler. And I've liked and subbed to your channel. Thank you so much, the Vile Eye.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 32nd episode of Analyzing Evil, featuring Lou Bloom from Nightcrawler. This film gives us insight into a character that is essentially a direct manifestation of antisocial personality disorder. And Nightcrawler shows us the many components of this disorder that, when used to their full advantage, can turn someone from a socially inept criminal outcast into a ruthless and driven man who will stop at nothing and do anything to achieve his goals. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in this role is a sight to behold, and the fact that he was so accurately able to portray a character with such an utter lack of humanity is truly noteworthy and deserving of the highest of praise. In this video, I'll be taking you through each component of the awkward depravity of Lou Bloom that leaves us viewers both captivated and horrified, giving you the complete image of a man whose sum total of his soul ultimately amounts to a singular drive to satisfy his own shallow desires. Now, without further ado, let's begin. Let's start things off by jumping right into his appearance, personality, and mannerisms, and applying them to the events we see unfolding during the course of the film. Lou is an awkward, skittish, and bug-eyed individual. He seems very neat and put together, but he has a gaunt and skeletal appearance, which coupled with his intense stare, make him an unsettling individual to watch in action. His manner of speaking, and the intensity and seriousness of his demeanor, make him seem as if he's some kind of alien who learned how to be a human by watching corporate training videos. It's obvious that his personality has contributed to the state we find him in at the beginning of the film, that of a low-level criminal who's sunk to stealing and fencing scrap metal to keep himself afloat. And I imagine that a man who's as standoffish and socially awkward as Lou undoubtedly has trouble holding down any sort of job. Here in this initial scene, we get a taste of the oddity that is Lou Bloom when he's confronting the security guard. But our first impression of Lou from this scene is that he's a bit of a smooth talker, an experienced criminal who tries to lie his way out of a situation before making any rash decisions. However, this image quickly dissolves when we see the exchange he has with the foreman of the scrapyard, which is our first instance of truly odd behavior from Lou, where he speaks to this man as if he's reciting verbatim from a pamphlet he received at a job fair, mixed with a speech he may have lifted directly from a movie. When this man denies him a job because Lou is a thief, rather than getting angry at this denial, it's as if Lou takes this moment to store a new tidbit of information about humanity that he was previously unaware of to improve his poor understanding of human relations. This is the basic foundation of Lou's interaction with people. Repetition of phraseology he's learned from various sources, mixed with moments of clarity where his wide-eyed and expressionless face logs new understanding in his strange, alien way. We see this again when he's speaking with Nina about the type of footage that her studio uses in their news segments, intently listening to every word she says, and asking curious questions like a child who's attempting to shape their existing assumptions of reality based on the words of others. His interactions with his employee, Rick, are much the same, and in their first encounter, the way he speaks to him reflects what you would expect someone to say when they're giving you an orientation for a position in some big corporation. Even after this first instance, he speaks to him on an overtly professional level, so much so that his speech is all but soulless, and his disregard for any sort of conventional human conversation when interacting with people is readily apparent. The way he speaks makes perfect sense when you consider what he says to Nina during their interaction at the studio concerning his education. Here, Lou states that he's self-taught, and most of what he's learned has come from his time spent doing his own research. This isn't a bad thing, but what lies behind that seemingly admirable drive to learn is the fact that everything about Lou is artificial. I don't think there's ever a moment during the course of this entire film where we get to see the true Lou Bloom. It's as if there truly isn't a Lou Bloom, and the man we see is only an entity who's pieced together his personality from the behaviors he's mimicked and the words he's assimilated into his memory from his studies into humanity. Even when he's alone, he's constantly building upon this persona, immersing himself in the profession he becomes enraptured with. And even when he's seemingly enjoying himself while watching a comedic film, he laughs as if he's practicing laughing, showing us that he's always attempting to improve his falsified self in order to reach his goals. There are moments where a small facet of human emotion shines through, like when he's captivated with the image of LA at the news studio, or when he screams at his reflection in his bathroom. But other than these scant few instances, we find ourselves looking at a Lou Bloom who rarely breaks from the odd persona he's formed through years of mimicry. He smiles and laughs, and he attempts to form bonds of camaraderie with those he deals with. But none of these emotions seem genuine, and he somehow manages to seem both socially inept and sociable at the same time. The only genuine aspects of Lou are his desires. Lou has a desire to learn, a desire to succeed, and a desire to fit in with the world that he seems to be so out of touch with. And these desires drive his motivations and the behaviors he exhibits. In his efforts to bring about his desires and improve his outer self, Lou has a few useful tools in his arsenal to accomplish these goals, namely, an obsessive attention to detail, manipulation, negotiation, and the frequent use of lies. Though Lou's approach to every situation is odd, it can't be said that he isn't prepared for them, and we see him logging in small details, like the tie Ben Waterman wears on Fridays, or researching everything he can about Nina before going on a date with her. Everything that Lou perceives is stored away to be used at the appropriate time, like the tie, the mention of which he uses to charm Ben later on in the film. His manipulation is often tied in with his propensity to negotiate every situation he finds himself in, but it's most prevalent when he's dealing with Rick, whom he strings along constantly throughout the film, promising him a comfortable position in his budding company by throwing around business jargon and vague assurances that leave Rick in a perpetual state of confusion and small satisfaction. Negotiation is a part of who Lou is, and he'll take every opportunity presented to him to turn a situation to his advantage, no matter the implications or
I
negative
hate people like
consequences
this.
that may follow.
I know a
And
bunch
his
of them too.
confidence in his skills as a negotiator only grows as the film progresses, eventually coming to the point where he's amassed enough credibility and power to exact whatever he pleases from an individual. Lou is ultimately an intensely selfish man, and he values no one higher than himself, and views people as nothing more than avenues to what he wishes to achieve. The scene where he's on a date with Nina is the best and most disturbing example of this notion. Here we see Lou complimenting her in a very matter-of-fact and odd way, after which he speaks about the pros and cons of being alone, and proceeds to tell her that he has a lack of physical touch and affection in his life, something which he wishes to acquire from Nina, which is a strange way of attempting to court someone, to say the least. However,
I don't know
this
if
can't
it's
even
strange.
be considered courting, as this whole conversation is once
It's
again
like a
just another
negotiation.
moment of negotiation and manipulation from Lou.
Sex is often
He has
like that.
absolutely no desire to see the happiness of Nina in this situation, and is instead looking solely at providing for himself a way to satisfy his own desires, without
Not
regard
always,
for
but
Nina's
it's often
feelings.
like that.
I imagine Lou could care less whether Nina actually enjoys whatever intercourse takes place between them, and whether or not she's miserable during this highly abusive and manipulative relationship would make no difference whatsoever to Lou, because at the end of the day, he would be satisfied, and that's the only thing that matters. In that same vein, he has no regard for the safety or well-being of anyone in general, and we frequently see him endangering not only the life of Rick with his reckless driving, but the lives of the countless people he's putting at risk as he speeds through red lights and swerves haphazardly through traffic. Towards the end of the film, Rick gives us quite the perfect summation of Lou's understanding of people, stating that Lou doesn't seem to understand people at all. This is mostly true, as he understands what their desires are, as that is really the only thing he understands about himself. But outside of that, he has no idea what it is to have normal human emotion, or any understanding of what it means to operate within the bounds of normal human society. He has no regard for social norms, no respect for anyone's feelings, and we often see him breaching the boundaries of many individuals' personal space, whether they be dead, alive, or injured. We see his blatant disrespect for any and all rights in situations where one should be treading lightly, or not at all, like when he's attempting to get gruesome shots of a crime scene, or the testimonies of witnesses at those scenes, bringing himself too close to the action, placing his camera in the face of dying victims, and bombarding people in the midst of these scenes with questions that are wholly uncalled for in stressful and sensitive situations. This is most evident when we find him manipulating crime scenes in order to improve his own shots, and especially when we find him in the home where the triple homicide took place, where he completely ignores the fact that a man lying on the floor is still alive, preferring to get the perfect shot of this man lying face down in a pool of his own blood, rather than helping him in any way that he can. Lou has absolutely no regard for human life whatsoever, and if he needs to defile and disrespect dead bodies to obtain a perfect shot, sabotage a competitor's vehicle to take them out of the game, or cause the death of his partner to ensure the success of his own business, he will do so with no remorse or guilt, taking these terrible actions without a shred of identifiable emotion on his face. The greatest example of this is, of course, the actions he takes in pursuit of a bigger story by withholding information about the identities of the perpetrators of the triple homicide in Granada Hills. Lou uses this information to create a situation where he can extract the maximum amount of harrowing footage he possibly can by placing police officers in a predicament in which their only option is to engage in a shootout and a deadly car chase. These actions result in the death of Rick, both of the perpetrators, 3 police officers, and the wounding of 4 more, with 1 lying in critical condition in the hospital, not to mention the dozen crimes Detective Fontieri states were committed in the process. All of this death and destruction occurred for one reason, and one reason only: ambition. Lou's ambition, fueled by his utter lack of empathy, destroyed all these lives with intent and precision that is sickening to behold. Had this been anyone with a conscience, a foray into that house in Granada Hills would have possibly resulted in the preservation of a life. But in the hands of Lou Bloom, the only thing that comes of this discovery is further death. Death that was 100% avoidable. In the end, in this world of depravity and morbid fascination with violence, Lou Bloom comes out the ultimate victor, elevating himself from a common thief to the head of a film company, creating for himself a carefully crafted image of a man who doesn't really even exist. And at this end, who exactly is the unperson that is Lou Bloom? He's a man who holds deep within himself absolutely nothing that could be construed as true humanity. To fill this void that is his person, his only option is a poor mimicry of the people he's observed in his lifetime, and the frequent repetition of phrases and taglines he's acquired from his research. The man we see in this film is the empty vessel of a human being who embodies nearly every aspect of antisocial personality disorder, employing his
I would say that's kind of what I am too.
lack of empathy to use and abuse people.
No, I have empathy. I'm the complete opposite of that. It's that I don't value people anymore. I don't value what they represent or what they could bring to me. I don't value what they've done to the planet. I don't value what they do with their money and their planes and their bombs or anything. I don't value their wars. I don't value their governments. I don't value their laws. I think most of what humanity does is essentially trying to beat around the bush while they go about the same exact things that a monkey does. And I don't like the beating around the bush. I don't like the jobs or the job interviews. I don't like the idea of a salary or a fucking government. I think it's most of that is semantic blockage between what people actually are and some kind of lie that we're forced to tell each other because of God or family or something. I don't know. And so then at that point, I'm like, yeah, I could give a fuck about all the gold in Fort Knox. You have to lock it up in Fort Knox. I could give a fuck about all the people in the world. You don't use them. You just use them. I could give a fuck about, whether people die or not. There's 7 billion of us. I could give a fuck about, like, pain or suffering or torture and shit. There's 7 billion of us. I don't care what happens to one of the lemmings, It sucks, but I don't care. Like, and then so I look at the monster that my life has become and how normal I am, and I think, wow, those things are so fucking separate from each other, yet the same thing, that it was all pointless in the whole place in the first place. It's all pointless in the first place. So then I think, how long till we die? It reminds me of this old joke they told in The Office where it's like, it's like you're on a plane and you watch the movie and you've eaten your dinner and you're waiting and 3.5 hours have gone by and now, and I think that was a Toby joke. And now it's like, now what? Right? That's how I view the state of humanity right now. There's no goal, no reason to live. Money's not it. Money is about as far from it as it could be. So anybody who chases that is obviously the worst, the biggest shitheads on the planet are the ones who have the most money. The worst careless assholes on the planet have the most money. And what's that? That is a elite mob for some reason. Okay. In the middle of nowhere for no reason. Alright. I think I've been playing too much World of Warcraft and I'm going to leave now. Unfortunately. It was good for a couple of months, but I think I got what I needed out of this until they raised the level cap on SOD. Well, hardcore is obviously not it if they're going to one-shot me before I can even vanish, So, yeah, I'm just going to I'm not going to do well anymore. Unfortunately. Done with WoW for a bit. Yeah, I'm done with WoW for a bit. It never lasts. No, a bit is it's like I think the next season comes in. They're understanding that, like Blizzard understood that what destroyed the world, and I would say this destroyed the world more than money or war or Afghanistan or anything, is the idea that we want to play the WoW more than we want to live our lives, and I think this destroyed the world. And so they're understanding that seasonal what's the word, like seasonal is a good, I don't know what the word is, business model, I guess. I don't know, business model. Seasonal is a good business model because you don't overplay it. I mean, you do if you're still a born loser who plays World of Warcraft all day. But I mean, like, but you don't overdo it because there's this point where you reach, like, being done. That never happens in the main game. You just never, ever really, truly finish, right? And I'm noticing a cold, hard realization that I need to make about myself is I like content that I haven't done before to the point where I'm willing to go play games that I don't like if it means that I haven't done them before to death. And I have absolutely done World of Warcraft to death. Like I know yesterday when I couldn't even drum up the anger over losing 80 hours, I think it was like 150 hours. I lost 150 hours on, or whatever it was. It was like 100 hours something, somewhere around there. I lost like 100 hours on my newest hardcore character, and I didn't even like get upset. Because I was like, it's not the loss of the character that's bad. It's the inability to care. And it's and that to me is the problem with World of Warcraft. Like, as soon as I dinged 25 on SOD, I was like, yeah, there's no new content in this place. And I guess I used to think it was kind of vacuous and shallow to chase content all the time, and that it was maybe better to stay in the places that you call home, and don't go chasing waterfalls and all this. But now I'm understanding that I pretty much need like new content all the time, or I'm unhappy. And WoW is the oldest content that I can think of that I absolutely have done 6 or 7 times. I have done the Barons 6 or 7 times, and it's something about doing the same thing, looking for new content, and they weren't able to supply it. And so, with the hardcore death, which was the only new content in WoW that I can think of, before I could even respond to use the evasion, I was just erased by 4 mobs. No warning, just bye. And, and I want to feel angry about this, but my inability to care causes me a existential crisis that helps me understand that WoW isn't it. WoW isn't the game that I want to play every day. Even if it had new content, WoW isn't the game that I want to play every day. This isn't the game that I want to play every day. There is no game that I want to play every day. Well, there is. It's called being a drug addict and sleeping with a lot of hot women and being like a musician. But whenever I do that, the whole world gets unhappy. And they just tell me how much I'm going to kill myself or destroy everyone around me or everything. So rather than do what I actually enjoy doing, I come and do video games all the time. And World of Warcraft is the oldest, most stuck in the ways. Just I can't break out of that mold, and like, okay, and I know like last year I would have been like, you couldn't pay me to play World of Warcraft again. But then I was like, oh, everyone's doing it, so why don't we? That's the name of a Cranberries album, by the way. Everyone's doing it, so why can't we? Right? Yeah, I think I'm done with WoW for a bit. Specifically because there's nothing new there. There's no boss that I haven't done. There's no boss in the world. There's no content or zone that I don't have the achievement for. There's nothing, there's nothing I haven't done except Gladiator, and I'm the only one in the community who didn't buy it. I mean, I've met a lot of Gladiators in my life, and the one thing they'll tell you is I bought it. Like they'll tell you all the time. Like Gladiator is bought. Unless you do it the first season, first time. That's the only time that laymen can reach it. At that point, after that, the men of the real men of the world fucking turn it into a bot tourney, you know, with their corruption and their bullshit. And so yeah, I kind of want like I kind of want my. There's one achievement on the achievement list that I don't have, and it's the one that I want, and it's the one that I can't get legitimately. And so I look at World of Warcraft like, yeah, it was fun. It's going to be fun to do Classic one time on SOD. But I don't think I can play that game every day. It's a really boring game. You know? I like the game. But I don't think I can play it every day like Fallout 76. Because no matter what, 76 is always going to have new form of content, you know? Every fight is different. Every mob's different. Sometimes you go to a zone and you're like, wow, the entirety of all the robots have been replaced by zombies, you know? And stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, this game will never feel one and the same. The zones and the maps and the graphics do, but the gameplay never feels one and the same. And I kind of need that now. Rust is starting to feel one and the same for me. There's nothing I don't know. There's nothing I can't do. There's no base I can't build. There's no base I haven't seen. There's no gameplay mechanic I haven't mastered except for power. There's no, there's no guns I haven't spent hundreds of hours on. Except for like LMG, because it's new. Like, I don't know. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't think Rust is it either. Unfortunately. Be right back. That's the problem. It is the problem. Damn it. No wonder. I'm upset that I don't think they make good video games fast enough for me to beat them. Or not, I'm sorry. I don't think they make games fast enough for me to maybe build a career off of it. If I have to sit here and do Final Fantasy 11 and WoW and all these games I used to play 20 years ago, Fallout and Skyrim and shit, World of Warcraft, or even 5 years ago like Rust and Overwatch and stuff, I actually need like a new MMO, and I don't think there will be one until 2036. And I know that sounds like kind of doomer gloomer or like kind of like a negative assessment, but I think that's actually what I think the reality is. I don't think there's going to be a good new modern MMO until like 2036, because the next cycle isn't going to be good. Ashes Creation is not going to be good. Shroud is not going to be good. PAX Day is not going to be good. Which means that we've now missed like a 9-year cycle. It'll be 2032 before another good MMO is released, and it'll be 2037 before I'm happy. And I think, oh my god, 14 more years of this. Of games that kind of I did 20 years ago. And at that point, I'm like, I was much happier getting the shit beaten out of me physically, beaten bloody, meth addict on the fucking streets, with a girlfriend, happy, just living my life and stuff, when I tried to live a normal life doing normal things with a normal job and normal games and all this, right? I'm extremely unhappy. And it's not that I wouldn't love to play video games on a stream for the rest of my life. It's that they just won't make a good one. They haven't made a good one since 2000 and I mean Fallout 76 is good. I don't know. I guess that would be what, 2015 or 2017? So what's that? It's only been 6 years. But I mean, even then, a lot of people would say that 76 is the worst MMO on the market, right? So yeah, it's been 2007 since a good game has been released. It'll be 2032. I'm fairly sure 2007 when I attempted suicide. By 2015, I was just a depressed drug addict because I knew that I was Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth, and I really loved the game of MMORPGs the way that Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth loved baseball. But see, the difference is baseball never got bad. Baseball never stopped being fun, you know? But boy, these MMOs did. I think of the only reason I want to log on 76 is because I know there's stuff I haven't seen. Even if it's locked behind 15 relogs due to quest bugs and retries and fuck ups and just distractions, and I don't think I have a feasible life, much less a feasible passion, much less a feasible job, much less a feasible reality. I think all I do is cost humanity money. I think I am the angriest, laziest person here. And I don't really like anything or anyone. Now, that's weird because I'm like the happiest, most sunshiny person you'll ever meet. But I would be lying if I say that I can think of anything or anyone that I like. I don't like anything or anyone. And it sucks to come to this realization on stream, but I mean, it's an old one for me. Old one that I knew when I was like 7 years old. And it's not like I want to see the world burn or anybody, it's not like I have some villain arc to live out or something. I already did that. I just... don't really like anything or anyone. I try not to be negative or angry or sad about it, Try not to be negative. But I actually really don't like anything or anyone. All I do all day long is dream up ways to keep them away from me. And so I play WoW not because I like it, but because at least I haven't done it too much in the last 10 years. But now I have. As of just now, I've done it too much.
To further his own ends. We're lucky to have found Lou in the situation we find him in.
So it's not that I'm putting WoW down for a while. It's like until I don't know, until I can go back to being who I actually am, which is like a homeless drug addict with no friends and no life. I don't think I'm going to be happy. Unless I go back to being a homeless drug addict with no friends and no life. The happiest I've ever been was in the burnt out restaurant with no cell phone. Living homeless. I had a dealer 5 blocks away, so I could just walk down the street and get high every day. And I didn't have to deal with anyone. I didn't have to worry about pressures, about money or family or humanity or any of that stuff. And I really, really, really fucking miss that. The world that they built is so much of a fraud in what it demands from you emotionally or physically or spiritually or or emotionally and stuff is so draining, you know. Like Silver Sun, sense of draining, you know, that I just don't really want to be sober myself, aware, or even like here anymore. And I only talk about these things because, like, I have to. I wasn't allowed to leave. I tried to leave. I challenged every cop and every bully and every person I ever fucking met to kill me. I killed me with, 135 naproxens and 70 Tylenol PMs. And I can't. And it seems like now it's like this, never-ending cycle of banality. I would say all of these things are banal. My life was never like this until I let other people like shape my life, like my mother or the women I was with or my friends or anything. When I let other people's fucking image of what my life should be uh change my actions and change who I was, I stopped being a happy person. I'm happy now because I don't have to report to anything or anyone. But I don't like the buildings that the humans made. I don't like the cars. I don't like their money. I like their music. I like their games. I don't like most of the things that humanity does, unfortunately. Most of the things. And so, yeah, I'm done with World of Warcraft for a while, yep. When you're truly crazy, like, it's not like about whether you pick things up or put things down. It was lucky you ever did anything at all, you know?
Higher power, or authority, would be one capable of committing atrocities on a mass scale that would be on par with the most brutal dictators in history. Instead, a future we'll likely never get to see for Lou is still one of power and authority.
So, yeah. And I guess you could call that like an existential crisis, but it's more like I didn't sign up for this. I wasn't asked first. Now I'm trapped in the zone. And I don't really value anything at all. It's like I was forced into nihilism by wicked men, I would say. And I'm the most wicked person that I think anybody's ever met. But I'm not bad like them. I've never harmed anybody. I'm the most wicked person you'll ever fucking meet. But like, I'm not evil like them. There's something really wrong with them. This banality that they force on the world. Something's really wrong with them. A lot more wrong with them than me. What they like the system that they built, the governments, the laws. Like, I don't know. I think I started this stream to wave a flag at the entire world and see if there was any possible change or anything to look forward to, or any reason. And I didn't find it, which is unfortunate. And my issue is not with the stream or the people in it. It's that I don't think I ever even want to talk to my mother again, much less anybody else. The beautiful part about it is there's no pain. I feel no pain. Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. I feel no pain. There has been no trauma. I'm not sad or angry or depressed. It's just a complete and utter unwillingness. Just a complete and utter unwillingness to be human. It's just not. I don't want their laws. I don't want their money. I don't want their jobs. I don't want their love. I don't want their kids. I don't want their life. I don't want the things. I don't want the trappings. I don't care about their fucking riches or their planes or their blowjobs or their fucking money or anything. They haven't put anything on the world that I want. And that's an existential crisis. There's nothing in the world that I want. Nothing in the world that I value. When I do things like I loot things, it's because I looted this stuff because I feel like whoever's watching feels like I should be doing this, but I don't value this stuff. You know, it's dysphoria, and my usual way or out of dysphoria is drugs. But I now have given them what they wanted. To quote Elliott Smith, right? They say God. From the song Pizzella, which is my favorite song by Elliott Smith, right? He mentions. They say that God makes problems just to see what you can stand before you do as the devil pleases and give up the thing that you love. And I feel tricked because I gave up the woman and the drugs and the lifestyle and the people and the crew that I love, so that I could go be sober like everybody else or something. I could go be normal like everybody else. I could, grab your things. It's time to. I've come. Grab your things. I've come to take you home. Like that song Salisbury Hill, by Peter Gabriel. Like, they say that God makes problems just to see what you can stand before you do as the devil pleases and give up the things that you love. And I don't have anything to give up anymore. I gave up all the things that I love. I don't value video games. I don't value YouTube. I don't value music even. I don't value anything but drugs and being left alone. And even that they took away from me. Every drug on the planet has been poisoned by mankind and cut with fentanyl. No drug on the planet is what they say it is. And now they've even taken away my ability to do that. And so I think like, oh, yeah, am I done with WoW? Yeah. Am I done with Rust? Yeah. Am I done with life? Yeah. Am I done with the stream? Yeah. Am I done with drugs? Yeah. Am I done with women? Yeah. Am I done with love? Yeah. Am I done with humanity? Yeah. Done with my family? Yeah. I'm done with all of it. I'm just done with it. Like, what the fuck, man? Like,
Sends the
I
ranks
think this what I've become, what my personality actually is actually the definition of evil.
of the news hierarchy in LA. Who knows how many lives will end as a result?
A man who values nothing in the world. what is evil, right? Let's define evil, right? To me, evil is somebody who values nothing else, nothing left in the world. There's nothing left in the world that they value. That's what evil is to me. That's what I am. I don't value anything at all. What I mean, the dictionary definition of evil. Morally wrong or bad. Yeah, when you don't value things, I think that's morally wrong or bad. Yeah. It's the worst, morally wrong or bad. When you don't value your love or your family or your wife or your kids or your husband or whatever. You don't value the world or the money they have or any of their bullshit. If you're harmful or injurious in this attitude, yep. If you're characterized by misfortune or suffering, I'd say that pretty much sums up exactly who I am. Misfortune and suffering. I am marked by anger. I am marked by irritability or irascibility, and due to actual or imputed bad conduct or character. Yeah, I am evil. This is pretty much the definition of me. Everybody in the world, I think, is trying to figure out how to tell their parents how they're gay. I'm trying to fucking figure out how to tell my parents at the age of 40 that I'm fucking evil. I'm not gay. I'm really straight. But like fucking I am absolutely evil and I'm evil. And I've been in the fucking closet my entire life when it comes to that. I'm such an evil person. I don't value their money, their lives, or what they build. I don't care about that. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I had it. I don't like people my age because I think they were old when I met them. Back when I was like 13 years old, they were old. They were old people when I met them at the age of 13. Some of them were so old. Some of them were smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey at the age of 13 like an old man. The fucking, I know I was. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, most of the people I know grew up way too fast. And, I don't know, man. Like, now I'm in this existential crisis where it's like, gotta figure out something that I value. Gotta figure out something that I want because I don't want anything. I don't care about their money. Don't care about their McMansions or what it can buy. Can't do their drugs because they made that illegal. And I swear to God, before God and a judge and my parents and my family, and I swore an oath I will actually keep, which is I will not violate their laws due to drugs anymore. I will not do that anymore because as long as they're illegal, I won't do them. But as long as drugs are illegal, I will never respect the American government ever. I don't care I don't care who they want me to vote for. I don't care who. Like, as long as drugs are illegal, I don't care if a foreign country like China nukes Washington, D.C. Until they legalize drugs, I view Washington, D.C. as worse than Mos Eisley. Please nuke Washington, D.C. Get those do nothing drug criminals out of here. You know? Morally wrong or bad, harmful or injurious, characterized by misfortune or suffering, marked by anger, irritability, or irascibility, due to actual or imputed bad conduct or character. And I think I've been lying to myself all of my life that I'm still a good person. I'm not a fucking good person. Am I evil? I think I am. I'm fairly evil.
pretending you're a great guy. I'm trying to be like you. And the ugly truth has always been
that I'm not that great a guy and you're exactly like me.
Am I evil?
Worse, you're smart. When you know nothing matters, the universe is yours. And I've never met a universe that was into it.
I've never met a universe that was into it.
The universe is basically an animal, grazes on the ordinary, creates infinite idiots just to eat them. Not unlike your friend Timmy.
Tommy.
Yeah, hardly matters now, sweetie. You know, smart people get a chance to climb on top, take reality for a ride, but it'll never stop trying to throw you. And eventually it will. There's no other way off.
I feel like I've spent my life pretending you're a great guy. I'm trying to be like you.
Yeah, I think I've spent my life trying to pretend I'm a good person.
And the ugly truth has always been
that I'm not that great a guy and you're exactly like me.
Yeah, I'm not that great a guy.
I feel like
Damn it, I did not want Metallica for this. A checklist, right? Am I evil? Yeah, let's play. How would you break up with a romantic partner? By ghosting? None of these. Over a text message? By dating? Over a phone call? Face to face? Is accessible bathroom stall for everyone to use or just people with disabilities? Everyone. How often do you post positive comments to your friends' photos on social media? Never. You are working in a group on a narrow sidewalk and see another person walking towards your group. How do you handle the situation? Is it acceptable to text while eating with other people? Yes. When do other people want to hear about the new diet you are trying? Never. How much perfume or fragrance should one wear in public? None. In your opinion, how should one speak on a cell phone while in a crowded space? However one wants. How would you stress that something is important in an email? All caps. Have you ever responded to conflict by using the phrase, "it's only business"? Yes. You enter a doorway and notice another person about 5 steps behind you heading to the door as well. Do you hold the door open for them? Yes. You are seated on a crowded bus when an elderly passenger boards. Do you give the person your seat? Yes. A rather pushy acquaintance in your life has been sending you repeated text messages. How do you respond? Do not respond at all. You spot a wallet on the ground that's filled with cash. What do you do? Take the cash, take the money, leave the wallet. Which of these people will you choose to hang out with? None of them. Skip to the results. I am 100% evil. I mean, am I surprised? No. The only reason I'm not a bad person is because they haven't created anything worthy of me wanting. There's nothing in the world that I want. So that's the real problem. I don't steal because there's nothing worth stealing except drugs.
It should be noted that Lou isn't the only one to blame here. As a world where
No, I'm not the only one to blame here. Some of it's the concussions, some of it's the people, some of it's the government, some of it's the 7 false assault charges and all the bullshit. The man who beat me bloody 6 times.
with what's shocking and exciting is one that is based in reality, and his abuse of people in unfortunate situations wouldn't occur if...
Man, the 6th time I called the cops, I was so fucking angry. I was ready to assault them the way he was assaulting me.
if it weren't
I was more angry at the cops than I was him. Do something, you fucking cocksuckers.
enabled. Regardless, when it comes down to it, Lou Bloom is the perfect sociopath, a soulless monster who has no respect for anybody but himself, and one who views humans as nothing more than tools for him to achieve his own ends. His abuse and manipulation of people, in concert with the loss of life and suffering that occurs as a result of his actions, is unforgivable, and whatever sliver of humanity lies behind the empty eyes and emotionless mask of Lou Bloom is buried under an avalanche of evil. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Analyzing Evil, and I hope you've enjoyed. What are your thoughts on Lou? Did I miss anything? Let me know down below, and leave a suggestion for a villain you'd like to see featured.
I want to see Lauren Malvo. I don't know. You just can't do that, huh? Piece of shit, YouTube. I'm about to watch Insomnia, so we'll watch this. I'm gonna watch Insomnia.
Hello, everyone.
Insomnia's been on my mind because
And welcome to the 157th episode of Analyzing Evil, featuring the characters and themes of Insomnia. While many of you may be familiar with the 2002 film directed by Christopher Nolan, some of you might not be aware that this film was actually a remake of a 1997 Norwegian film, which was directed by Eric Skoldberg. And both versions of Insomnia are presented to us as riveting, philosophical, and complex pseudo-noir tales that tell similar, yet altogether different stories that pose some interesting moral questions that challenges us viewers on our preconceived notions of people's characters and their actions. And both of these stories do a wonderful job of selling their respective messages to the audience. In this video, we'll be discussing the characters and themes of both films, delving into the stories of our two anti-heroes, Jonas Engström and Will Dormer, as well as our two villains, John Holt and Walter Finch. And in doing so, we'll be able to get an accurate read on what exactly these stories and their characters are trying to convey to us. But first, let's talk about our sponsor for this video, Keeps. Keeps is an affordable and discreet online subscription service that offers clinically proven treatments designed to fight against the symptoms of hair loss from the comfort of your own home. Chances are, you or someone you know has experienced some form of hair loss, as 2 out of 3 men will unfortunately experience hair loss by the time they turn 35. With the help of Keeps, though, that hair loss becomes preventable and even reversible, as Keeps is formulated to both stop hair loss in its tracks while stimulating new hair growth. But don't just take my word for it. There are thousands of testimonies from thousands of customers who have found success in combating hair loss with Keeps. Success that you can see in before and after pictures that are on your screen now. With the help of Keeps licensed medical providers, you'll choose products and treatments that are specific to your type of hair that are easily added to your routine without having to ever visit a doctor's office or pharmacy. Their products are delivered straight to your door in discreet packaging. And for any and all needs regarding Keeps, you have access to 24/7 support that includes a network of medical advisors, prescribers, and care specialists that are ready to assist you. Don't let your follicle insecurities rule your life, as hair loss stops with Keeps. For a special offer to get started, go to keeps.com/file or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/file to get your special offer with Keeps today. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring this video. Now, without further ado, let's begin. I typically don't do this, but it's important that you know what these stories are about before we go any further. So for those of you who aren't aware of its contents, I'm going to provide you with a short synopsis. Both versions of Insomnia's stories are centered around 2 cops who are tasked with traveling to a remote location to solve the murder of a young girl. In the process, the lead detective on the case accidentally kills their partner when pursuing the primary suspect. Rather than admit to their wrongdoing, these cops choose to cover up their involvement in the shooting. And it's this cover-up attempt that has them experiencing varying forms of guilt and regret that then leads them to developing severe insomnia. And because the murder suspect they were pursuing witnessed this killing and is actively blackmailing them in order to get the cops off their trail, these two detectives end up forming an uneasy alliance with the man they were tasked with apprehending. Now that should give you a sufficient enough understanding of this story for you to keep up with the details I'm about to mention. So with that out of the way, let's start off by discussing and comparing the two anti-heroes of our respective stories, Jonas Engström and Will Dormer. Now, Jonas Engström is a former Swedish cop with no family who's chosen to exile himself to Norway after he was found sleeping with a witness. Despite this, Jonas is considered an excellent detective, and he quickly found employment in the Oslo Police Department upon moving to Norway. And throughout this story, he shows himself to be a man with a keen attention to detail and capabilities that far exceed those of his colleagues. As far as his overall personality is concerned, it's a bit dry, relaxed, and matter-of-fact. And though there are a few times when Jonas shows an outburst of emotion, mainly due to his ongoing psychosis brought on by his insomnia, he more often than not presents himself as a stoic. Will Dormer, on the other hand, is more animated, humorous, and amiable, a man who displays bursts of
I like, I quoted the Elliot Smith because they say that God makes problems just to see what you can stand before you do as the devil pleases, give up the things that you love. And it's not the God and devil part of here that I'm saying that I find important. It's the just to see what you can stand before you give up the things that you love part that I find important. And I have given up everything that I've loved. And what do I do? It was drugs. Drugs were what I was living for. Drugs were what made me happy. I like drugs. Not, and I say drugs like plural because I mean plural. I really like it when I'm on 7 different substances. Nicotine, marijuana, alcohol, speed, heroin. That's enough. 5 drugs. Call it 5 drugs. I think most therapists' advice to me would be to go do what I want to do, which is really, really annoying. Which is just go right back to where I was born and go back to doing what I do best, which is getting high.
anger, joy, and laughter at various points in his story. Though just like Jonas, his insomnia has a maddening effect on his psyche that alters his
I don't like this sober personality that I built. Like I don't like this sober person. I don't like what I become. I don't like that I've I don't value that I've lost weight. To me, it seems like weird transformations into some personality that I'm not.
Personality as the film progresses. In a similar vein as Jonas's career status and familial status, Will is a man without any family, and at the time this story begins, he is currently under investigation by the Internal Affairs Division of the LAPD because of the underhanded tactics he's used to bring suspected criminals to justice. And because of this, he, along with his partner Hap Eckhart, are sent to investigate a murder in Nightmute, Alaska, so they won't cause any trouble back home during the investigation. However, where Jonas and Will really differ is their overall moral designation. Jonas is painted as a creep, a man whose sexual indiscretion cost him his job, and who shows himself to be sexually aggressive and perverse on a few different occasions. Will, on the other hand, has a strong moral compass and a relatively stout character, but he's misguided in the way that he chooses to approach justice and fight evil. Will is given just as much opportunity to be a creep as Jonas is, but Will remains honorable and respectful whenever the opportunity for perversion presents itself. Now, if we take a look at the villains of each film, John Holt and Walter Finch, we also find some key similarities between the two. two, yet also some very stark differences. John Holt is a lonely and moderately successful crime novelist who shares many similarities with Jonas. He's blunt, bland, and his quiet and unnerving intensity gives us the impression that something isn't quite right with him. Walter Finch is a lonely and moderately successful crime novelist as well, but he seems to be much more well-adjusted than John is. Walter is also quiet, but his quiet is more awkward and almost innocent, rather than unnerving. We're given much more exposure to Walter through the numerous phone conversations he has with Will. And though John and Walter share the distinction of being devious in their attempts to blackmail the investigators pursuing them, Walter outwardly plays the hapless and forlorn innocent better than John does, and Walter is far more manipulative and covertly insidious than John is. However, all of who these men are as individuals isn't enough to condemn them as being either good or evil, as like everyone else, it's what they do that defines their placement on the spectrum of morality. John and Walter are both guilty of the exact same crime, coveting a young woman who admired their writing, who then came to them as interested readers, who they then murdered after these girls refused their advances. Both claim that the murder was an accident, however the veracity of that claim is questionable. In John's case, the murder probably was an accident, as though he was assaulting her, and was perhaps intending to force Tanya to have relations with him. It would appear that in the process of throwing her around, he accidentally shoved her against a wall with a nail sticking out of it, which then killed her. Walter, on the other hand, beat Kay to death over the course of 10 minutes, and while he might not have intended to kill her while he was beating her, that 10-minute time frame calls into question how a man could dish out a beating for so long and not realize that he was killing the person he was giving it to. Now, how they arrived at the point where they were in a position to murder a young girl is found in their isolation and loneliness. Both John and Walter live alone in a lonely world of never-ending nights and days, and when these beautiful young girls presented themselves as admirers of their work, their long-lost spark of joy that's derived from human connection was ignited within them. And like so many lonely men who are greeted with sudden female attention, their minds instantly gravitated towards pursuing these girls romantically. Over the course of what seems to have been several months, John and Walter met with these girls on a regular basis and showered them with gifts and attention, taking advantage of their vulnerability in regard to their relationships with their abusive boyfriends and attempting to steer their relationship in a romantic direction. When these girls came to them after having a big fight with their boyfriends, John and Walter saw their chance to use their grief as an inroad into their hearts, and they tried to initiate physical intimacy, which these girls swiftly and rightfully rejected, and then proceeded to laugh at. After all, why shouldn't they laugh? It is a ridiculous thought. A middle-aged man who they come to see as a mentor getting wrapped up in a moment of swirling emotions and attempting to initiate romance with an underage girl. And perhaps in another life, John and Walter may have had the wherewithal to understand the absurdity of their actions and laugh alongside them, but they didn't. These lonesome men who had been ground down by the numbing world around them couldn't handle this perceived insult to their characters, and the quiet rage that had been building over the many years of their isolated existence burst like a dam in this moment. So these are the circumstances that tie John and Walter to Jonas and Will respectively, and with the particulars of their characters and actions in mind, we can now examine the actions of Jonas and Will. Let's first take a look at two similar scenarios we find both of them in that they handle differently from one another: the interrogation and intimidation of the murder victim's best friend, and the fabrication of ballistic evidence. When both of them are driving these girls to the dump where their friend's body was dropped by the killer, they're presented with an opportunity to engage in relations with these underage girls. Will refuses Tanya's advances, but Jonas decides to take it upon himself to advance upon Freya, and he proceeds to fondle her while he's driving. Now, we have no way of knowing whether or not this is a delusion brought on by his insomnia, but even if it is, his thoughts highlight how Jonas is a corrupt man who fosters some sickening demons within him, and one has to wonder just where his deviant behavior has taken him and who he's hurt along the way. Now let's take a look at the dog scene. In both films, when shooting their partners, Jonas and Will shoot them with their own guns. In order to absolve themselves of guilt in this scenario, they try to blame the shooting on the murderer they were chasing, but that would require their partners to have been shot with the murderer's gun. So, to stop their lives from being discovered via ballistic evidence, they both endeavor to replace the bullet found in their partner's body with a bullet from the killer's gun, and to make it believable, they need to fire their gun into flesh, as providing a fresh bullet, or one that's been fired into something else, would give away that it was falsified. So, both of these men choose to fire the killer's gun into a dog. The caveat here, though, is that Jonas lures a stray dog to him and kills it, whereas Will fires the gun into a dog's corpse. Now, it's possible that Will would have taken the same course as Jonas here and killed a live animal, and both of these actions are wrong, considering they're taken to facilitate a criminal conspiracy. But these differences go a long way in highlighting what kind of men Jonas and Will are. Will obviously has a morally gray streak to him, but he tries to be an upstanding man and cop whenever he can be, despite the questionable things he does to absolve himself of guilt for the killing of Hap, which is evident in the way he handles this situation. Jonas, on the other hand, makes the choice to kill a dog with seemingly little thought put into the matter. To be fair, he could have put some thought into it, but without any knowledge of those thoughts. It appears to us as if Jonas simply had the idea to recreate the same conditions for the bullet, and then immediately after thought to himself, "Oh yeah, that dog I saw the other day, that'll work," which aligns pretty well with his character. These two separate approaches to the same situations definitely highlights the questionable characteristics of each of these men that we've already discussed. But it's the cover-up of their own accidental crime, the cover-up of John and Walter's crimes, and the reasons behind these cover-ups that really drive home the faults in these men. We're never really given any solid motivation for Jonas choosing to cover up the killing of his partner. Obviously, there's the standard desire to stay out of trouble that any person feels when they've done something wrong. But outside of that, we're never given any indicators from Jonas in the story as to why he didn't admit to his wrongdoing. However, with what we know about his disgraceful exit from the Swedish police force, we can perhaps assume that he feared losing his job, and even the possibility of facing jail time for this accident, as the Norwegian police aren't allowed to carry firearms without being permitted to do so beforehand. With that in mind, Jonas's cover-up is entirely self-serving in nature, and his willingness to work with John Holt to cover up his own crimes by framing an innocent young man, once he's been blackmailed by John with his knowledge of the shooting, turns this into one disgusting partnership when you consider that Jonas is well aware that he's aiding John in framing an innocent, while allowing a murderer to go free for his own sake. To his credit though, he was aware that John was inevitably going to be caught, and Eilert freed. However, when you consider that we don't know whether or not Jonas was going to continue helping John, when he confronted him for the final time, whatever virtue can be found here might have to be thrown out, and we'll touch on that a bit later on. For Will, while engaging in this cover-up is still self-serving, his desire to absolve himself of any wrongdoing also comes from a more virtuous place, as he's not just worried about himself here, but about the dozens of criminals that could potentially go free should it be revealed that he killed Hap, as due to the IA currently investigating him for tampering with evidence, he would undoubtedly be accused of murdering Hap because he was willing to come clean, which would then paint him as a murderer, as well as a shady cop, due to the possibility of falsified evidence having been used in their cases. In contrast to Jonas, Will does deserve some credit for planning to convict Walter and absolve Randy of any guilt in the process. As though he was working with Walter, he was not nearly as sympathetic towards him as Jonas was to John, and we do know that he truly planned on bringing him to justice, despite what he'd done already to keep him free. So with everything we've discussed in mind, what are the overarching themes that these characters and their stories present us? As far as John and Walter's stories are concerned, they're lessons in what loneliness can do to a person, how the lack of human interaction can lead to over-attachment to the first person that looks your way, which then can lead to horrific things occurring once their fantasized intentions are struck down by the people they've invested so much of their emotional energy in. Both John and Walter end up suffering the ultimate punishment for their crimes, and though that's not perhaps exactly how justice would have played out had they been apprehended by the authorities, they've reaped what they sowed and paid the price for it. Now, the stories of Jonas and Will present us with some hefty thematic overtures that are derived both from their actions and from the connections they have to John and Walter respectively. For Jonas, it's how his depraved behavior and the lack of consequences associated with his behavior highlight the fallacies present in his person and the world around him. After all the dubious things Jonas does in this story have played out, and we've watched the faults in his character frequently lead him to deviant behavior, we find that nothing happens to Jonas, and he's able to drive away from all that he's done without having to suffer through any sort of ramifications for his actions. What this distinction accomplishes is it causes us to question who the real bad guy is in this scenario: the man who murdered a young girl that refused his romantic advances, or the man working with a murderer to cover up his accidental killing. The answer here is they're both bad guys. One just has better access to resources and facilities that enable him to appear to be a good guy. Despite this, Jonas is a man who feels an intense amount of guilt over who he is and what he's done. A man who experienced several dizzying days of debauchery and depravity that filled him with regret and eventually incredulity at just how much he was able to get away with. How no one, not even the women he assaulted, were willing to unveil his indiscretions to the proper authorities.
I just like how like when they define bad boy, they often define it by like assault of women, and that to me is a different type of evil. That's like, you know, sloth. It's unfaceted and it's.
And the insomnia he experiences goes a long way in selling this notion to us. However, it's not just Jonas's guilt. causing him to experience sleepless nights. It's the struggle he's having with his behavior and his identity, and John.
Yeah, I am very worried about maintaining the opinion, like the good opinion of the people around me. And I try, not good opinion, but, well, no, I don't think anybody around me probably has a good opinion of me. Oh, this fucking quest. I hate this quest.
Struggle. While much of the tragedy in this story is blamed on accidents, I believe it's no accident that John's name is made up of the first 3 letters of Jonas's name, as John represents Jonas's fractured conscience and moral compass, components of his psyche that he's...
You lost me here.
and working with throughout this story, and this is why Jonas is much more sympathetic to John's plight than Will is to Walter's, as aside from his potential continued assistance of Jonas's cover-up plan, Jonas even states at the end of the film that John's murder of Tanya could have been an accident, and that John isn't the killer type. And it's true. It was an accident, but it was an accident that was derived from insidious behavior, something that Jonas is seemingly willing to ignore due to his connection to John. What this perhaps indicates is his increasing shift towards the mindset that all that he's done is accidental, not just the shooting, which was truly accidental, but all of his behavior towards women, as well as his actions during the attempted cover-ups. A man who, just like John, has fooled himself into believing that his behavior isn't really his fault. Jonas's story is just as much a lesson in the dangers of a lonesome existence as John's story is. And as we watch the haunting eyes of the sleep-deprived Jonas driving away at the conclusion of this film, we're faced with a man who's torn between guilt, his own wants, needs, and behavior, and the absurdity of the world he lives in. A lonely and depraved man, caught up in the story of another kindred spirit, who's now questioning everything he is, and everything that he's done. Now, the primary themes behind Will's story are the harmful consequences that come as a result of telling consistent lies, and the fallacies present within the ends justify the means mindset. Will has lied for so long under the pretext of the ends justifying the means, that he's now reached a point where his lies are actively aiding a murderer in covering up his crimes. There's no doubt that Will's evidence tampering put away criminals who deserve to be put away, but how many innocents did he condemn to a cell by manufacturing crimes they didn't commit? We'll never know, but alongside the overwhelming damage you can cause to your life, and the lives of the people around you by consistently lying, that's the biggest downside in engaging in this type of behavior. As flawed as all the justice systems across the world can be, when you endeavor to bring someone to justice for their crimes, you should always base your convictions off of true evidence and the facts. As I believe the mantra innocent until proven guilty is something that should be sacred, and in order to prove someone to be guilty, you need to look at the proof, and nothing but the proof. As Rachel noted when Will was pouring his heart out to her, I guess it's about what you thought was right at the time, and what you're willing to live with. And while that may be true to an extent, one's problematic choices, no matter how noble they may seem in the moment, are always liable to come back to bite you in the end, and any suffering you may experience as a result of the decisions you made can only be blamed on yourself. As far as Will's relationship to Walter, Walter is the personification of all of Will's lies, and what those lies have led him to. Unlike Jonas, Will doesn't sympathize with Walter. He hates him, not just because he's a murderer, but because Walter is a living reminder of what path his lies have taken him down. A path that ended with Will Dormer, a dedicated servant of justice, working with a murderer to cover up his own killing, as well as a murderer. It's his guilt, regret, and the predicament he now finds himself in, due to his own actions, that keep him up at night. A man who tried to be a force of good in the world, who unfortunately fell flat in that regard, and was made to suffer the consequences of his actions. So I believe that's everything that these stories were aiming to convey to us. And what the constant light present in these films imparts upon us is that evil doesn't live solely in the dark. Sometimes it's the blinding light that shines upon the crimes of the guilty that can amplify the evil of any given situation. And for the guilty, that light can similarly amplify their feelings of regret and guilt, a constant beacon reminding them of who they are and what they've done that doesn't allow them to hide from their feelings. Light that plagues the mind and throws your conscience into turmoil. And even when we're trying to do good and we're chasing bad guys, we always have to be mindful of our own actions, of who we truly are. And sometimes all it takes to get in touch with your true self is a quick look in the mirror, as sometimes you'll find yourself looking back at a person who's drowning in the evil that they created themselves. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Analyzing Evil, and I hope you've enjoyed. What are your thoughts on these films and these characters? Did I miss anything? Let me know down below, and leave a suggestion for a villain you'd like to see featured while you're at it. If you liked this video, hit that thumbs up button, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. A big thank you to all of my subscribers, to my patrons, and to anyone who's decided to honor me with a super thank. And a most vile thank you to those whose names you're seeing on screen now. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 155 of
Thank you for the excellent content for my stream. I've liked and subbed to your channel. Analyzing Evil Insomnia from the Vile Eye. Thank you. This is good.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 155 of Analyzing Evil, featuring the characters and themes of V for Vendetta, a story originally created to serve as a warning of what could possibly arise from the Thatcherite government of the 1980s. V for Vendetta has stood the test of time as one of the premier works of the comic book medium, a story that tells a tale of tyranny and the valiant effort made to thwart it that's as timeless as it is harrowing. In this video, we'll be discussing all aspects of the moral questions posed by this story and its characters. And to do so, I'll mostly be using the novel and the information we can find there to make my points. However, what I discuss regarding the novel can more or less be applied to the film as well, so keep that in mind as we continue. Now without further ado, let's begin. In the alternate universe that the V for Vendetta graphic novel takes place in, a nuclear war that devastated the entire planet occurred in the year 1988. Fortunately for Great Britain, the Isles remained untouched by bombs in this war, and though they were made to suffer the consequences of the dire shifts in weather that the bombs brought alongside the collapse of the global economy, overall, the people of the United Kingdom were able to persevere when compared to the peoples of other nations. However, perseverance still brings complications in the aftermath of devastation, including the advent of nefarious powers like the Norse Fire Party, which is described in detail by EvE when she's having a conversation with V about the war. And the war, EvE. Do you remember the war? Of course I do. I was only 7, but I remember when the news came over the radio. Dad kept telling Mom not to worry. He was scared to death. It was about Poland and the Russians, wasn't it? President Kennedy said he'd use the bomb if they didn't get out. That's what Dad told me. It was horrible. Nobody knew if Britain would get bombed or not. I remember Mom saying, "Africa's not there anymore." That's all she said. But Britain didn't get bombed. Not that it made much difference. All the bombs and things had done something to the weather, something bad. We could see right across London from the bedroom window. It was nearly all underwater. The Thames barrier had burst. The sky was all yellow and black. I've never seen a sky like it. Dad said London was finished. He wanted to take Mum and me to the country. Mum wouldn't go. Just as well. I suppose it turned out that the countryside was worse than the towns. The weather had destroyed all the crops, see, and there was no food coming from Europe, because Europe had gone, like Africa. I didn't like to think about the next 4 years. We got together with some neighbors in a protection committee. It didn't help much. There was no food, and the sewers were flooded, and everybody got sick. Mum died in 1991. Dad wouldn't let me see her. There were riots, and people with guns. Nobody knew what was going on. Everyone was waiting for the government to do something, but there wasn't any government anymore, just lots of little gangs all trying to take over. And then in 1992, somebody finally did. It was all the fascist groups, the right-wingers. They'd all got together with some of the big corporations that had survived.
Cocksuckers.
Norsefire, they called
Fuck you!
themselves. I remember when
Pieces
they marched
of
into
shit.
London, they had a flag with their symbol on. Everyone was cheering.
I hate you like I
thought they
hate
were
fucking
scary.
Hitler.
They soon got things
Fuck
under control,
Republicans.
but then they started taking people away. All the black people, and the Pakistanis.
Of course they
white
did.
people too. All the radicals, and the men who,
Poor people.
you know, liked other men. The homosexuals. I don't know what they did with them all. Now, aside from the hardship the people of England endured following the war, this excerpt describes in part the stages a society goes through following its collapse. In the beginning, there is utter chaos. People's lives have been destroyed, and the structures of society have failed, which then results in mass suffering that's only further compounded by everyone attempting to eliminate their suffering in any way they can. As the chaos ensues, a massive power vacuum develops, and gangs form both so criminals can more effectively take advantage of the situation, and so people can better protect themselves through superior numbers, which then causes even more suffering, as these groups wreak more havoc on their environment and the populace than they could have as individuals. And then, once the initial panic has subsided, and people have gotten fed up with this new decrepit world they find themselves in, that's when they look to the organized groups who have the most power and the right message to start fixing things. And that's when people find themselves faced with a new insidious type of danger. In times of peace and prosperity where the rule of law reigns supreme and economic hardship is at a minimum, the violent and the extreme are kept in check by the tranquility of the times and by the threat of consequences should they act out. So when things are going well, the people espousing extreme ideas are largely ignored, as maintaining a flourishing society via peace and cooperation is the best way to ensure the continued success of a thriving human civilization that the vast majority of people are more than willing to maintain once stability has been achieved. However, when massive hardship rears its ugly head, people become much more willing to allow previously unthinkable behavior to occur in order to make that hardship go away. And that's just what happens with the Norsefire Party, the main source of evil in this universe at the time this story begins. An organization that's comprised of God-fearing Englishmen that's ready to restore Britannia back to its former glory by imposing harsh and draconian laws that ostracize and eliminate the people they deem to be undesirables, like people of color, people with adversarial political or religious alignments, and members of the LGBTQ community. Also, England can once again be a prosperous land that's catered towards the English and the English only. As horrific as the advent of a Norsefire-esque organization is, it becomes quite apparent why such groups are allowed to come into power when you consider just how horrifying the destruction of civilization is. For example, if in this dystopian world your parents died in a riot, your spouse is wasting away due to a disease that could be cured if they had access to proper medical care, and your children are starving, you're going to get to a point where you'll be willing to sacrifice nearly anything if it means protecting yourself and the ones you love. And when societal collapse occurs, and people are faced with all this misery, what is the most effective solution to the myriad problems your broken civilization is faced with? The swift and strict imposition of order by those with the power to do so, particularly in large population centers. As much as environmental devastation is a problem for everyone in such a situation no matter where you live, in big cities, the problems that chaos presents are far greater than one might experience in the countryside. In fact, if the countryside is thoroughly compromised like it is in this story, another problem presents itself in the wave of survivors flocking to population centers in order to survive, and a combination of people in need doing whatever it takes to survive, plus an influx of even more people in need from outlying areas, turns cities into a veritable free-for-all, where the survival of yourself and your loved ones at any cost is all that really matters, and whichever group or person has the best solution to this problem is inevitably going to be accepted by the vast majority of people. Now, a regime...
Oh, damn it. As soon as he says something like this, you know what I think first? He says something like this, listen to it.
People in need from outlying areas turn cities into a veritable free-for-all, where the survival of yourself and your loved ones at any cost is all that really matters.
Right, the survival of you and your loved ones at any cost is all that really matters, right? The first thing I think about is man, I need to go YouTube how to dig a well. Thank you, Hacksman, for the excellent content for my stream. I've liked and sub to your channel.
Keep going. Keep going. It's not spinning, Madison. I might need to get on your shoulders. Wondering maybe how I got into this position? Let me take you back just a little bit.
Ugh.
There's 2 in the water. Kim!
Sit pretty. Good boy.
Hey, hey, hey.
You're not funny.
You can, you got it, come on. Push down on those you do. You know what you're digging here?
Oh, this poor girl. He needed a boy. He needed a son. This poor girl. Look at what he's doing to her.
Okay, now you gotta pull it up as quick as you can.
She's unwilling to.
You can, you got it, come on. Pull! Pull! Go, 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 get it, get it, get it! You get it, there you go, look at that. Good job, look at all that you got out of there.
Yeah.
All right, I'll dump it out for you. There we go. My wrist is hurting. Old computer injury causing my wrist to hurt.
Yeah.
There is some mud.
Shit. I gotta worry about that.
That's what I was trying to avoid. Okay. Come here. You got a warning. Girl, what did you eat this morning? Spin that. No, you're going the wrong way. Righty tighty. Righty tighty, lefty loose. Okay, go righty tighty. There you go, you got it, you got it. Keep on keeping on, girl. Yeah, I can see it spinning. You got it, you're doing good. The back. I thought I myself, being the I felt like I needed to show them some mercy. So I thought I myself, being the giving person I am, I'll just put the burden on myself. And
The
I'll
giving person that I am. I can't stand men when they're full of themselves. It's a fucking language I don't fucking speak. And I'm so much more arrogant than this guy. That's the worst part too. I am such a fucking asshole compared to this guy. But when they get their little tongue in cheek like shit, I'm like, you mean you're full of yourself.
Loud pounding sounds. But this is more work. You know, depending on what you consider work. Fortunately for me, our water table is not really that deep. I think maybe before I pull it out, get out of that hole of mud. So it's caving in. I was down to here, and then I've lost a foot. So at this point, I've been digging and digging, and it's kind of pointless. I think this is as far as I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get this out. You can just go anywhere, right? Okay, watch out for the camera lady. And then we'll put this in. A 5-gallon bucket of water and let it sit there for a little bit. So that's what I've done. On the bottom of this, it's so full of water. Okay, it has 1.25 inch threaded end And what I've got here is, again, slip to threaded coupler. And I'm not going to do this permanent right now. I just want to test this and see if it works. So I'm just going to put that in like that. And then I'm just going to put that on there. All right, there's another little trick. Let me try this. Oh, look at it, because you're probably going to get a little bit wet. No. Put some water down in there. Oh, yes. Yes. Check it out. All right, Madison, should we get a taste of this well water? Oh, yes, yes, indeed you do. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. Really sticks to your ribs. We are going to be cleaning up our backyard.
You aren't worried about the many different poisons and problems that might have with that water that hasn't seen air in a long time? Okay. I don't think I could drink water that looked like chocolate milk. Gross.
Really sticks to your ribs. We are going to be cleaning up our back way. I'm gonna put around it. Chose not to drink this one. I wanted to use this one just for illustrative purposes. You can see how the dirt has settled, you know, the sediment has settled down to the bottom, and the top is becoming clearer. And it will become clearer than that as it sets, and that's what's going to happen inside the well. Keep the streak alive, baby.
Okay.
Oh. Oh. Laser. This morning I ran to the hardware store, picked up some fast set quickcrete, made this form out of 2x4s, and then I've got this 3/8" rebar running down and into the bottom here and up. And I've seen this done several different ways, very similar to this, but I thought I'd put my own little spin on it because I happen to have some 2x12s left over not too long ago. So I thought, hey, why not fancy it up a little bit? Mixed up some more of this, but I got time for the scoop. If you're working by yourself like I was today, this stuff ain't no joke. When it says fast setting, it's fast setting. If you got to make a bunch of batches, you have to be careful that you're not letting the first batch set up before the second batch goes on top of it and you've got that separation there. I'm by myself today because imagine this, my little girls would rather go to Girl Scouts than help Daddy pour the concrete for the well today.
Big surprise. I hope that girl does continue doing that. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
It's hot. Anyway.
There you go. Good job. They're all going to be warm. Hey, it's looking sweet, though. Lovely.
Apple soup, right?
No bueno. Well, turned out amazing. As you can see on the corners, the aggregate is exposed, and that's because when I made the form, I didn't let her in here. From now, we've got for plants, and I mean, oh, it's so refreshing. Oh, oh, I'll see you next time. Cold.
It's a viable way to do it. Yeah.
has the best solution to this problem is inevitably going to be accepted by the vast majority of people. Now, a regime coming into power that's trying to impose order upon a fractured populace for the sake of safety and security isn't necessarily a bad thing in scenarios like these. Obviously, it isn't preferable, but if everyone around you is suffering in many different ways, it makes sense in the moment to restore order so supply lines can be opened, infrastructure can be maintained and repaired.
Oh my god, I found my way. Thank God. I found my way through this terrible maze.
Unknown term. Millibards. Please resubmit task.
When I think of fascism, I think of the control of water. Housing. This is how you know you have a fascist government, right? If the rent's too high or the water's too expensive or gasoline or any of that other stuff, you have a fascist government, because like those things should never be expensive at all. Water, gasoline, those things are all like really, I mean, gasoline is expensive, but like water, food, all that stuff, it takes time and effort to get that stuff, but it's not like it's not plentiful in supply. I like this perk that makes me impervious to physical damage. Wow, I made it further than I did yesterday. Finally.
Welcome back. My apologies.
Stupid maze.
Residents must have had a good reason to open all those cells at the time.
No, I got this far. I got this far already. I got lost further than this. I've been further than this. Damn it. I thought I was getting further, but no.
Your nutrients must be running low. Please help yourself to any supplies you need.
Gross, it's like a meat grinder.
Please forgive the mess. The residents became rather unruly after the accident.
And violence. The problem here doesn't necessarily lie with the concept. It lies with the fact that most, if not all groups that you're granting this power to, either have ulterior motives, or they refuse to relinquish that power in favor of less drastic forms of governance once they've restored order. And Norsefire is guilty of both. Now, why the Norsefire party won out as the people's chosen mechanism for order, and not another radical group, is due to the overall climate in England at the time they were granted their mandate. When extenuating circumstances present themselves, it's typically the group who has their fingers on the heartbeat of the populace's woes that wins people over, which is evident in some of the more widely known real-world examples of such shifts in power occurring. In the many countries that comprised the Russian Empire in 1917, the revolutionaries who promised a swift and violent end to the tyranny of Tsarist rule, modernization, and the conclusion of the foreign war that their sovereign had forced them to fight in for the last 3 years, rallied large swaths of the populace to the Bolshevik cause, people who had long suffered as slaves to the monarchy, whose desire for freedom, equality, and justice was taken advantage of by an organization that would go on to commit horrific and mass atrocities in the name of communism. By the time the Nazis came to power in 1933, the people of Germany had been battered and broken first by their defeat in the First World War, then again by the harsh restrictions imposed upon them by the Treaty of Versailles, starving people who were more than ready for a strong man to make his entrance and put an end to their suffering that many people had come to associate with an intricate and far-reaching Jewish conspiracy, all of which rallied massive amounts of civilians towards Hitler and his message. However, these shifts didn't occur solely because of the right message. It was because they delivered the right message to the major groups of their respective respective populations. If we take a look at the 1991 British census, we can see that 94.5% of the population at the time was made up of white people, the majority of which identified as white British. In this alternate version of Britain where the Northfire Party came into power circa 1992, it's easy to see why they'd be able to win over the majority portion of the population with their message. After all, what is the root cause of all the problems that the people of Great Britain suffered after the war? Or more importantly, who had started the war? Foreigners. Foreigners who bombed one another to high heaven and instigated all the misery that these people had to experience following that war's conclusion. So it only made sense in the mind of many a white Brit who'd suffered through 4 years of tragedies to shift blame towards the people seemingly responsible for all their suffering. Something that isn't necessarily a natural conclusion for one to reach on their own, but one that's easily brought to the forefront of many people's minds once they're bombarded with messaging aimed at vilifying anyone who either came from another nation or disrupted the fabric of traditional English society. And the reason this works is because placing the blame for your woes on someone or something presents you with an easy path to fixing those woes. As once you've identified what you believe to be the cause of your issues, all you have to do then is rationalize getting rid of that cause. And in this case, that rationalization looks something like the foreigners, the gays, the heathens, and the socialists are the problem, and all we need to do to fix all our problems is get rid of them. And that's just what Northfire did over the course of several years. While
And
the events
Hitler.
leading to the
And
advent of the
Trump.
Northfire government in the film are much different, in that it was a virus that Northfire manufactured and unleashed upon the populace themselves so they could paint this tragedy as a bioweapons attack that was perpetrated by religious extremists. This attack, in combination with the overall global strife at the time of their rise to power, created similar conditions that the war we find in the graphic novel did. Now, as we've already partly covered, depending on what kind of organization you give this type of power to, many problems can present themselves the moment you do so, like we see with the Northfire Party, who made it their prerogative to use any non-white or non-conforming person as scapegoats for the changes they were looking to make. And the suffering people who run counter to their ideology endured is wholly unjustifiable and wrong. But aside from the lives that suffered during the formation of their government, the biggest problems with allowing this power-bestowing solution to play out is how your chosen vessel for societal rehabilitation typically transforms society into an oppressive police state that utilizes horrific tactics in the name of maintaining order, and how difficult it is to get rid of these tyrants once they've infested every aspect of your society. Once the honeymoon phase is over for the people the regime chooses to tolerate, and you're faced with the reality of the situation you now find your society in, there are 3 major roadblocks that end up presenting themselves once your chosen group has solidified their power.
Suicide,
constant surveillance, the radical nature of their overall methods and message, and the centralized power that the party and their leaders hold. With a party like Northfire, they do a fantastic job of brainwashing people through propaganda, which renders large sections of their society both complacent and complicit through various forms of rhetoric, like the us versus them narrative, religious dogma, superiority-based racial policies, falsified statistics that bolster the credibility of the regime, and so much more. When propaganda fails, these powers resort to a tried and true method of population control: violence, torture, imprisonment, assault, and any other violent thing you can imagine will likely be utilized by these regimes to keep their hold on power if they need to use them. And when you add in that constant surveillance, you find yourself constantly watched and surrounded by indoctrinated people that welcome the extreme actions of their leaders.
Yeah, fuck the Republican Party. Fuck the Republicans who roll with them. Fuck anybody who ever thought it was cool. Fuck anybody who ever voted Republican. Fuck the fucking fascist fucking party. Fuck their fucking bullshit. Fuck their fucking fascism. Fuck their fucking Patriot Act. Fuck their fucking Watergate. Fuck their fucking Vietnam. Fuck their fucking 9/11. Fuck their fucking bullshit fascism. Fuck their fucking bullshit. Fuck their fucking bullshit. Hey guys, you want to start a Republican hunting party? You know, let's start a Republican hunting party. Why not? It's like those Brits that used to chase foxes around on horses and stuff. Let's chase some Republicans. You know, before they destroy the world.
Warm at the expense of everyone else, and standing tall above everyone as the puppet master stringing along his subjects is that chosen leader of the organization, who in this case is Adam Susan. Adam Susan is presented to us as a man totally devoted to his cause and nothing else. A virginal man whose only true love is fascism and the fake computer system that allows him to run his country from the safety of his high office. While his film counterpart Adam Sutler does appear to be a zealot, he is far more concerned with power and maintaining that power. Mr. Susan, on the other hand, actually thoroughly believes in the righteousness of his cause, the purity of his message, and that he is the savior of his people. And while a greedy megalomaniac is certainly a terrifying thing to encounter, a man who lives and breathes breathes his cause is infinitely more harrowing, as his devotion to the principles he espouses makes him a far more stalwart enemy than a man who would sooner abandon his party's platform for new ideas if they promised to expand or improve his hold on power. A man who would die for his position, not necessarily his cause. But not a man like Adam Susan. He would fight until the bitter end for Norsefire, and then some. But either of these individuals will always attract similarly devoted allies who will do any sordid thing that their leader asks of them, and they'll do so regardless of whether or not their motives are power or to further their cause. And just how dangerous Susan and his message is exemplified in a monologue that were given by him in the novel. My name is Adam Susan. I am the leader of the lost, ruler of the ruins. I am a man, like any other man. I lead the country that I love out of the wilderness of the 20th century. I believe in survival, in the destiny of the Nordic race. I believe in fascism.
God.
Oh yes,
I don't.
I am a fascist. What of
I'm
it?
not.
Fascism. A word whose meaning has been lost in the bleedings of the weak and the treacherous. The Romans invented fascism.
Lost.
A bundle of bound twigs was its symbol. One twig could be broken. A bundle would prevail.
Bundle of
Strength and
twigs.
unity. I
Yeah,
believe in
fascists
strength.
are a bundle
I
of some twigs, yeah, I'd say.
believe in unity. And if that strength, that unity of purpose demands a uniformity of thought, word, and deed, then so be it. I will not hear talk of freedom. I will not hear talk of individual liberty. They are luxuries. I do not believe in luxuries. The war put paid to luxury. The war put paid to freedom. The only freedom left to my people is the freedom to starve, the freedom to die, the freedom to live in a world of chaos. Should I allow them that freedom? I think not. Do I reserve for myself the freedom I deny to others? I do not. I sit here within my cage, and I am but a servant. I, who am master of all that I see. I see desolation. I see ashes. I have so very much. I have so very little. I am not loved. I know that. Not in soul, nor body. I have never known the soft whisper of endearment, never known the peace that lies between the thighs of a woman. But I am respected. I am feared.
Oh my God,
and that
it's
will
an
suffice,
incel virgin
because
and
I love.
fascist.
I, who am not loved in return. Now, if that man at the head of an organized terror like the Norsefire Party doesn't leave you reeling, I'm not sure what else will. So now we've covered the circumstances that lead to the formation of such nefarious powers, and we've discussed some of the methods they employ to keep that power intact. But now we need to discuss the persona and actions of the titular protagonist of this story, V. The greatest enemies of any regime are always the people they're trying to rule over, and what typically ends up happening to any given regime is one of three things. Either they fail to provide the people they're responsible for with a thriving society, which then sows disillusionment that builds until it explodes like a powder keg. They engage in militaristic actions that unites many foes against them, that then destroy them, or they're toppled via the actions of those they've wronged in various ways, through revolutionary activity, civil wars, or coups d'etats. In this story, that method ends up being a revolution that's instigated by V, a man whose life the Norsefire regime all but destroyed. As soon as Norsefire had its hold on power, it began the process of culling the undesirables in English society, and one of their preferred methods of accomplishing this was to imprison people in concentration camps who were slated to be executed by the state for the crime of existing or having an opinion. One such camp was the Larkhill Resettlement Camp, which served as both a prison and a medical research facility, where the staff conducted gruesome experiments on its inmates in the name of science. All of the people interred at Larkhill who were subject to these experiments perished, all except for one, the man we know as V, whose origins are otherwise unknown. V was driven half-mad by these experiments, and in 1993, after earning the trust of the camp's personnel, he managed to free himself by manufacturing and detonating explosives that he placed about the camp. And from here, he would embark on a 4-year-long journey of revenge and revolution that marked him as a terrorist in the eyes of the Norsefire regime. Now, when you're dealing with any two sides of a conflict, you're always going to have to factor in perspective into the moral designation of any given individual or organization. For the Norsefire government, V is a terrorist and a villain. For V, the Norsefire government is unjust and villainous. So when two sides are claiming that the other is evil, how do you determine who is and isn't the villain in such a situation? By examining both impartially. Let's operate based off the assumption that both Norsefire and V want what's best for their country. Now, how do both of them aim to accomplish bettering the world? Norsefire wants to eliminate suffering by eliminating those it has designated as causing that suffering, and in doing so, they believe they'll be able to build a society based off of order, tradition, and strict adherence to harsh laws, at the expense of those who aren't white, heterosexual, God-fearing Brits. V wants to make the world a better place by toppling Norsefire and igniting anarchy, so humanity can return to a state where each person is only made to answer to themselves. By just stating stating these facts about each, we can clearly identify Norsefire as the villain here. However, V is not completely bereft of villainous behavior, and that mostly has to do with his methods for accomplishing his revolution. When you think of a revolution, most people typically picture a popular uprising of people that wish to see drastic change in a country that's suffering under the weight of tyranny, oppression, or gross mismanagement, and sometimes that means war, or at the very least, massive protests. V doesn't instigate some sort of righteous war that galvanizes the populace into taking action against their oppressors, nor does he build off popular sentiment and disillusionment to rally the people behind his message. He does do that eventually, but initially, he accomplishes his goal of turning the populace against Norsefire through the projection of his own form of propaganda and terrorist activities like espionage, murder, and the bombing of landmarks, with the intended goal of throwing England back into chaos so anarchy may reign where tyranny once did. And while all the actions he takes that are geared towards the downfall of Norsefire are just that, some of them are more personal than others, like his murder of every single person who ever worked at the Larkhill resettlement camp, though each and every person involved with that camp undoubtedly deserved to be punished in some way. So the murders he commits are justifiable to a certain degree, though each would need to be examined individually to determine just how justified each one was. And his imprisonment and torture of EvE, so she might better see his point of view and take on his legacy following his passing, is something rather questionable as well, even if it did make her a better person. Here's the thing though, who is really to blame for any of the less than honorable actions V takes in the name of revolution and justice? V, or the people who drove him to take these actions? Before V became V, he was a man like any other, a member of British society who for one reason or another was chosen to be a guinea pig at the Larkhill concentration camp. And through all the horror he suffered, he was transformed into this shadowy figure that was hell-bent on taking down the power that had destroyed his life and the lives of so many of his fellow countrymen. Had none of this happened to him, the man we know as V would have never come into existence, and thus all of the actions he took in the name of his cause would have never occurred. So while you can assign some degree of villainy to V's character due to his methods, to place the blame on him for doing what he does in this story is erroneous, even more so when you consider the circumstances he's faced with, as it's not as if he could stand on a soapbox surrounded by loyal adherents and deliver his message of revolution in a more noble manner. No. In this type of scenario where an oppressive power has a stranglehold over society, subterfuge and targeted violent action is likely the best method one has available to them to instigate any sort of change. So is V a hero? Yes, he is, but a flawed one. A man who flirts with villainy, but only for the sake of a cause that he believes will set humanity on the path to peace and prosperity. However, that brings us to the only real issue with V's revolution. V's revolution is by design supposed to result in disorganization, the destruction of an insidious construct that will then ideally result in the creation of something better once the dust has settled. While that's a nice idea in theory, ripping the bandage off a bleeding wound in the hopes that something or someone will come along and mend it in a proper way isn't exactly the most stable course of action. And while there was an enormous amount of thought and planning put into the revolution itself, there was little to none put into what would happen after, which again, was the intended goal when you consider that anarchy is chaotic by nature. However, as far as the viability of anarchy specifically is concerned, I don't have an answer for that, and I'm not trying to say one political solution has more merit than the other. I'm only trying to point out the potential negative ramifications that are associated with any such solution. Anarchy could very well be a perfectly fine answer to all of humanity's woes, and V demolishing the Norsefire government to give people back their right to self-determination is overall a net positive, regardless of how well thought out his anarchical aspirations were. However, the fact does remain that in the short term, V's revolution is going to cause a degree of chaos that could result in suffering that might not have occurred had his intent for the revolution been different. While the risk of another tyrannical group seizing power would be reduced following such a revolution, it still remains a possibility that it could happen, which is one of the risks any revolution has to accept. However, the greatest danger to the people following V's revolution is the potential harm that could come to innocence when it happens. Though it's true that there will be people aligned with the enemy who are innocent enough that will die via the revolution, or innocents that will die because they're caught up in the chaos that ensues once the revolution begins. Again, it's not really V who's to blame for their deaths. It's Norsefire through the tyranny and oppression they imposed on the populace that would have eventually drove people to taking some sort of revolutionary actions anyway. Now, I was playing devil's advocate with V's methods and his revolution because I believe it's important to examine the merits and flaws of all sides of any conflict, no matter how virtuous or insidious they appear to be. But regardless regardless of the downsides of V's actions, there's something very important and extraordinary that V's revolution provides the people of England with, that Norsefire would never dream of giving them. A choice they were denied by the nefarious powers that used the suffering of the populace to their advantage so they could strangle freedom, individuality, and self-determination in the name of order, security, and tradition, which is an organized path to misery that anyone should and would be glad to be rid of, even if shirking off such a power has a cost associated with it. So with everything we've discussed in mind, what are the greatest takeaways from this story as far as good and evil are concerned? Well, though this story was designed to be a critique of fascism in particular, and how easily a group with such an alignment can grab hold of society, it ultimately serves as a warning against just how quickly any person or group that would use the suffering of others as a lightning rod for their message of hate and bigotry can transform any society into a veritable hellscape in the name of justice and order. The concepts of justice, law, and order can be the iridescent bastion of civilization, a beacon that all can flock to for safety, security, prosperity, and freedom. Or it can be perverted into a tool for the wicked to provide safety, security, prosperity, and limited freedom to some at the expense of so many others. For the trappings of justice are unfortunately allied to those who are in the best position to utilize them. And if there is no one left standing in a sea of fear that's ready to decry its use as an extension of evil, then it no longer becomes the ally of each and every one of us, but the ally of the corrupt and the wicked, which is exemplified by this excerpt on justice that V grants us in the Bible when he's having a conversation with a statue of Lady Justice. Very well, so you stand revealed at last. You are his justice. Now you have bettered another. Well, two can play at that game. Who is she, V? What is her name? Her name is Anarchy, and she has taught me more as a mistress than you ever did. She has taught me that justice is meaningless without freedom. She is honest, she makes no promises, and breaks none. Unlike you, Jezebel. Just as an organization can pervert justice to its cause, this is how one man can shape it to his own, so he might eradicate that which has perverted it. A symbol of the right stolen from man, that is ready to take down the thieves who took them by any means necessary, so that people might rise up and erase the continued crimes of the despots who claim they know what's best for them, while denying them what it means to be human. And what lies at the core of all the issues that tyrannical regimes create is the fact that they use the principles of justice to back up their promise to provide for some by stamping on the throats of others. And it's when a great power can manage to make its people forget that others who may appear different than they are also human, that they're able to do so, and evil thrives, as it's not just the people who make up the core membership of the party who are to blame for the horrid things they accomplish. It's each and every person who, when asked "may I" by these scoundrels, said yes of course, please do. People who let their fear rule their minds, and subsequently let their lives be overtaken by the people who exploit that fear. As V so eloquently states in the novel, the vicious cabaret that's played out in this story is unfortunately part of a cycle that has been repeating since time immemorial. And perhaps the biggest takeaway from this story is that sometimes the world needs change that only revolution can bring. But once we've made that change, it falls on each and every one of us to ensure that what we fought for isn't supplanted by nefarious forces in the future. For as hard as prosperity is to achieve, it can be so easily toppled if we let our fear consume us. Fear that will allow the villains waiting for their opportunity to strike, that are ready to ravish our world with evil for your own good. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Analyzing Evil, and I hope you've enjoyed.
Yeah, it was
what are
super
your
good.
thoughts on V for Vendetta? Let me know down below.
I love it. It's one of my favorite films, and it had a lot to do with